Welcome everybody to another week of Friends in Faith. I'm Father Nicholas Sheehy and very excited to share with you today as we continue our walk through the Ten Commandments. Now, the Ten Commandments, something that we're all familiar with, even I think our society is familiar with, where so often society seems to be out of touch with God, with religion, particularly with the Judeo-Christian tradition. And nevertheless, the Ten Commandments are something that mark our life. And today, in a certain sense, I think we have one of the easiest commandments to understand. Commandment number 7, you shall not steal. And I was thinking about this and kind of what is my own experience with stealing? And thankfully, personally, it's been pretty limited. Once somebody stole my bike out of the backyard, but it wasn't too traumatic of an experience. But I do remember just growing up with my parents, they would share the experience how early on in their marriage, their house had been robbed. And even I remember a few years later, we were watching the news, and the news came out, and one of their neighbors had suffered a crime there along with ransacking the house. And so you could kind of get that sense of injustice, that sense of violation. And it's something that we really see with this commandment of you shall not steal. It's something that's kind of written in our DNA, something that we all expect and accept as far as our morality. You could even just think about, being in the line at Disneyland or at Magic Mountain. If somebody cuts in line, everybody kind of reacts because it feels unfair. Well, so that's a little bit this commandment of you shall not steal. And so we all have that experience and that desire to be protecting our own things. But then we should also be reflecting on, am I living this the right way? And I think that we should be reflecting as well on our generosity. And a lot of times when we think about stewardship, we speak of 3 different ways that we can be good stewards: time, talent, and treasure. And I think that, even looking at this commandment of you shall not steal, it could be good to look at it in the prism of these 3 categories. So we can look at time, and you can think, how can I steal time? Well, when you're wasting somebody else's time, or something that has become very common, what's referred to as quiet quitting, where maybe we're still at our job, but we're not really applying ourselves the way that we should. And then maybe at the end of the week, we're filling out our time card and we had to be absolutely honest, we might have to subtract some minutes or even some hours from time that we were wasting. And I think that's something that is important to take into account, because the greatest resource that we have as human beings, and in a particular way as Christians, is our time. And all of the time we have is to serve the kingdom of God. So that's not something that I should be stealing away for other things. And we can think as well about our talent. Am I really developing myself the way that I should? Hopefully none of us is in a situation where we're taking things that don't belong to us. Obviously, that would be something to think about, to reflect on as well. But I can think, if I really done the work that I need to do to develop the talents that I have, if I'm a student, am I doing the best that I can to take advantage of my classes, of my formative experiences, opportunities? If I just see other talents that God has given me, do I do that to the best of my ability? Do I develop myself? Am I giving the proper space to that? Am I being generous with my talent? Maybe I have a great talent in something that could serve the church, and I've kind of kept that for myself. Well, maybe I'm stealing from God or from the church or from my community to some extent there. And so we want to be generous as well there. We want to avoid stealing by being generous, by giving of ourselves. And then finally, treasure. And I think this is where we probably think of the most when we're thinking about you shall not steal. Obviously you can't take $20 out of your neighbor's wallet, or stick them up, take away somebody's money at the bus stop. But there's so many different ways that we can steal as well with treasure. Cheating on our taxes, being dishonest in reporting our time cards, and so we're charging more than what we have actually earned, or where we're stealing other people's ideas and passing them off as our own. downloading movies illegally. There's so many different ways, and it can kind of creep in and things that we might be used to. You remember a few years ago just how common it was to be downloading illegal copies of music. I think a lot of that has diminished just with the rise of some of the streaming platforms, but like, am I using somebody else's account for streaming in an illegal way? Well, these are all things to reflect on as far as you shall not steal. So it's interesting. And what I find fascinating here is that you look at the commandment, you shall not steal. It's something so basic, something that we all accept so readily that we agree to. But when we start to scratch the surface and dig a little deeper, we recognize I might not be as well off in this area as I might have thought. And so that's what I would like to invite all of you to do in your small groups. Reflect, are there areas where maybe we need to be a little more honest with ourselves and where we need to make a better examination of conscience about how we are respecting others' goods and also making the best investment with our own goods. The traditional definition of justice is to give each what pertains to him or her, what belongs to him or her. And that's something that we're called to do, as human beings, but in a very special way as Christians, as Catholics. So I would invite you as a small group, reflect, how are we living justice? How are we with this whole aspect of stealing in the area of time, in the area of talent, and in the area of treasure? So I hope that you continue to make this walk through these 10 commandments, and that each one of them can be an inspiration and an invitation to go deeper and to grow in our love for the Lord. So have a great discussion, and I'll see you on Sunday. God bless.